Israel is a thriving democracy, but it's also a Jewish state, and since 1948, the government has been trying to maintain a balance between the two. These past few weeks, observance of the Sabbath has been one of the main issues in the Israeli political scene, and ILTV's Steve Leibowitz sat down with Liat, the international editor of the Jerusalem Post, to find out more about how the issue will affect the future of Israel's identity.
Well, the Jerusalem Post reports that Minister Katz says that the Shabbat scandal will not bring him down. Shabbat scandal, all that he did, in effect, was allow some work to be done on Saturday that had to be done in order to protect the public. Why should that be a political scandal?
Well, one always is very touchy, the subject of working on the Sabbath and what actually is necessary under this guideline of pikuach nefesh, the idea of saving a soul rather than for convenience. And that's a specific category which rabbis really determine more than government ministers. I think also the ultra-Orthodox were more upset with the procedure around it, the idea of there being a press conference and photos being taken from the air at the same time, which is much harder to justify from a point of view of necessity. I also don't think it's going to bring him down or the government down. Him slightly more, only in the sense maybe there's political warmongering between him and the Prime Minister. There's no love lost there lately, so I think possibly also with the coalition parties, the ultra-Orthodox party, this may be the first shoe. I don't think they were looking to exacerbate this into a full-blown coalition crisis, but I think it's a subject that might be used against the current government, against Netanyahu or against Katz later on, further down the line. I think it's more sort of a form of ammunition than anything else.
Well, Prime Minister Netanyahu probably remembers back to the famous turbine incident, which ended up bringing down his government when a turbine was moved. But in Israel, everything is closed. All workplaces are closed. Entertainment places are open. There are no public buses running. Considering that the ultra-Orthodox are really a minority in the population, isn't it chutzpah for them to try to dictate to the rest of the secular people what should and shouldn't be on Saturday?
I don't think it's chutzpah, because that keeping Shabbat, as you said, like the fact that things are closed, and it's certainly the difference in pace, that's actually what makes Israel Israel. That's what makes the Jewish state the Jewish state. And if we didn't have that, to some extent, it just wouldn't be the same country. It certainly wouldn't be the same Jewish country that it's meant to be, and that's what we love it for, really. And by the way, I think the first political crisis was probably the F-15s that arrived slightly after Shabbat in
right. So there's a history of Shabbat issues being
right.
used by the ultra-Orthodox to cause a coalition crisis, or when they need one.
Right, or even, in fact, the government in power also. I think Rabin himself called for early elections after the F-15 fiasco, because he thought he could go into elections from a position of strength, which didn't happen. And I think actually over the years, and certainly Netanyahu has learned to be more cautious about that. I don't think he's going to want to bring forward elections if he really doesn't have to.
A secular person during the summertime would probably like to go to the beach, and let's say he doesn't have much money, he's not a wealthy person, he doesn't have money for taxis. He's used to taking the bus to go places. He has to take the bus, otherwise he has nowhere to go anywhere. I mean, you would think that there are a lot of secular, poor people in the country that are angry and that would vote to make changes in the country, but that doesn't seem to ever happen.
Well, again, it's a part of. I mean, it's not a monolithic kind of thing. It's not homogeneous. I know so many people who go to synagogue and then go to the beach, and so there's that whole variation of views and ways of looking at it. And I think again, people want to keep that slight difference of Shabbat and Sabbath from any other day. It's the same with Yom Kippur, for example. And I always think that if ever, heaven forbid, there was an actual law banning people from driving on Yom Kippur, that year people would be on the road. The fact that there isn't a law that makes you have to stop driving on Yom Kippur is the reason people abide by it. And I think even secular, non-religious people enjoy that day for introspection in their own way, marking it as a different day. And I think also marking the Sabbath as a different day. That's a holy day separate from the regular weekday. I think that's very much in force here still.
Well, Liat Collins, 28 years at the Jerusalem Post. Almost 28 years covering the news in Israel at the Jerusalem Post. Thanks so much for being with us at ILTV.
Thank you so much.